So there they are, ESPN Classics ranking of the 20 who slipped through the cracks. Did we miss any? By definition of this show, probably. But it's time to check in now with our second guessers to see if we came up short. We join the Junkies for sports-loving radio talk show hosts from D.C. and Baltimore for the final word.
All right, fellas, let's talk about this most underrated list. Who's number one? Number one on the list was Stan Musial. What do you think?
Well, it's hard for me to say Stan Musial's the most underrated. He was a 20-time All-Star.
I just don't agree with that.
The Hall of Famer.
I mean, when I'm thinking of the greatest players of all time, I'm certainly throwing Stan Musial in the mix.
It's got to be.
Like you mentioned, 20 All-Star games.
And hello, the fans.
Who goes to 20 All-Star games is underrated.
Right, the fans vote in the All-Stars.
Yeah, but people have forgotten about him. When people ask about the greatest players of all time, particularly when you think about that era, you think Babe Ruth, Joe DiMaggio. You don't necessarily think about Stan Musial.
But Stan Musial has to be on the short list. Every time you talk about great Hall of Fame baseball players, he is brought up.
But also on this list, Robinson and Aaron. I just don't think of Frank Robinson, Hank Aaron, and Stan Musial as underrated ball players.
When you're like a first ballot Hall of Famer, you're not one of the most underrated players.
These are three of the top 10 hitters of all time.
Right, Hank Aaron has the most career home runs, RBI. He's up there in like every major category.
But what I think when people think about Hank Aaron, they think home run king, and that's all they think. He's number 3 all-time in hits with over 3,700 hits.
Well, he played for 28 years.
He led the league in batting average twice.
He was a great player.
Most people think slugger. Maybe they disrespect his total game.
Because that supersedes everything else. Home runs are king.
What do you think about Joe Dumars? Came in at number 5. I think that that's actually a good spot for him on this list.
Yeah, it's probably appropriate. You know, it's interesting, though. He always played in the shadow of Isaiah. But now the way their management careers are going, he's actually overshadowing Isaiah.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, there are other flamboyant personalities on that team. Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer, the tough guy. I mean, Dumars played over 1,000 games with the Pistons, 6-time NBA All-Star, and won the 2 rings with
This
the
is
Bad
why I
Boys.
think he was underrated. He was always known as defensive guy. Michael Jordan for years said he was the best lockup man-on-man defensive player. But he was also a great perimeter shooter. Almost 1,000 threes in his career. I believe that leads the Pistons. So he was not just a great defensive player, but offensively he'd kill you.
I'd tell you who I think gets disrespected over the years, and that's Greg Norman. This is a guy who won 88 tournaments around the world. He was number 1 in the world 331 weeks. And yet all everybody talks about are the lost opportunities in the Grand
He did
Slam.
have some monumental collapses.
Nobody cares about the tournaments in Australia and Japan that
They
he
still
won.
count 88 professional victories.
But it's all about the majors.
5 years as the number 1 golfer in the world.
Okay, it's fine, but he was a choker.
You know, one guy who's on this list is Evander Holyfield, and I'm sure we're probably going to be on both sides of the fence. I actually think he should be higher. I know that he's lost a lot of matches late in his career, but he took out some greats. He had the trilogy with Riddick Bowe, won a couple of those, beat George Foreman, of course beat Mike Tyson twice.
The problem is, though, he's hung on too long. He's got 8 losses. That really diminishes.
He's limped out, and I think more people will remember him for getting part of his ear bitten off than for all the great things he did in his career. Now, another guy on the list, number 12, Curtis Martin. I mean, when you think of great running backs in the league, you may overlook him, but if you look at what he's done over his career, 10 straight 1,000-plus yard rushing seasons, 90 touchdowns, he should be a lock first ballot Hall of Famer.
Curtis Martin, always steady, never put up the huge fantasy football, gaudy statistics, but every year he's there. All right, well, that's it for our take on the most underrated here on Who's Number One. Pretty solid up top, although we got a lot of beef with the baseball guys on the list.